Have you ever felt that a certain relationship in your life is draining your peace, confidence, or sense of self-worth? In today's video, we'll uncover 9 unmistakable signs that it might be time to cut ties, even with a close friend or family member. Picture this. Is there someone who constantly makes you feel guilty, judged, or only worthy when you cater to their needs? Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not external events. Accept this, and you'll find strength." Taking a step back isn't selfish, it's a vital move to safeguard your peace and self-respect. This video will help you identify these harmful red flags and provide practical steps to confront them guilt-free. Be sure to stay tuned until the end, as I'll reveal the most subtle yet widespread sign that many of us miss, and how to break free from it for good. If you find value in this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you never miss out on life-enriching insights. Let's begin reclaiming the freedom and self-respect you truly deserve. First, steer clear of people who don't contribute equally. Have you ever met someone who immediately mentions not having money? It's easy to sympathize with genuine struggles, but strangely, these individuals often lead a comfortable lifestyle, splurging on trips, hobbies, or luxuries, yet conveniently bring up financial excuses when it's about you. This isn't about poverty, it's about calculated behavior. If this sounds familiar, pause and reflect. This is not the mark of a balanced or authentic relationship. I once knew a friend like this. Every time we planned something, he claimed he couldn't afford it, yet had no qualms about spending on personal indulgences. When he backed out of a trip we had planned, I realized it wasn't about money. It was about how little he valued our friendship. That's when I understood such one-sided relationships can't last, as they lack fairness and genuine care. Whether it's with friends, family, or a partner, mutual sharing and support are the foundation of any healthy connection. If you're constantly giving while they take without reciprocation, it's time to reassess. Strong relationships are built on equality, respect, and care. If someone treats you as a resource, don't shy away from setting boundaries or walking away. You deserve relationships that bring happiness, empathy, and true value. Second, avoid people who thrive on constant quarrels. Have you ever felt like every conversation with someone turns into a battlefield? This is what happens when you're dealing with people who argue incessantly. They inflate minor issues and drag you into their disputes, forcing you to choose sides. Not only do they complicate their own lives, but they also disrupt the peace in your relationship. Let me share an experience. I had a friend like this. He appeared confident on the surface, but any difference of opinion quickly escalated into a heated argument. Once, during a casual gathering, we were discussing a trip and a minor disagreement arose. He immediately pulled me into the argument, demanding I support him in front of everyone. That was the moment I realized that relationships with people who provoke conflicts and demand loyalty during every argument are unsustainable. Frequent arguing doesn't demonstrate intelligence or strength. It reveals insecurity and a lack of emotional control. Those who argue constantly don't just damage relationships, they also hinder their own personal growth. A wise person doesn't need to win every debate. Instead, they focus on fostering peace, understanding, and resolving issues calmly. If you're stuck in a cycle of endless arguments or find yourself being dragged into unnecessary conflicts, take a step back and reflect. Choosing calmness not only protects your relationships but also preserves your inner peace. In life, the true treasures are harmonious connections and a serene mind. Third, avoid people who dismiss your struggles. Life's journey is filled with unique challenges, and no two burdens are the same. Joys and sorrows hold personal significance that cannot be measured on a universal scale. However, one of the most disheartening experiences is sharing your struggles only to be met by someone who minimizes them while amplifying their own. This isn't just inconsiderate, it erodes trust and weakens the foundation of any meaningful relationship. I recall opening up to a close friend about the difficulties of juggling work and caring for my aging parents. Rather than offering empathy, he brushed aside my concerns and shifted the focus to his own work problems, as though my challenges didn't matter. That moment didn't just leave me feeling let down, it hurt deeply. I realized then that relationships thrive only when both sides genuinely listen and respect each other's struggles, just as they would want their own to be valued. Respect isn't about grand gestures. It's rooted in simple acts, sincerely saying thank you, apologizing when you're wrong, and offering heartfelt support. These small actions are the foundation of strong relationships. Distance yourself from those who lack gratitude, fail to celebrate your achievements, or dismiss your pain. Those who take pleasure in others' hardships lack compassion, and their indifference is toxic. While you can't control others' actions, you can choose who you allow into your life. Foster connections built on mutual respect, empathy, and care. Surround yourself with people who rejoice in your successes, console you in tough times, and genuinely wish for your happiness. Never find satisfaction in someone else's pain. It not only harms them, but diminishes your own character. Living with compassion nurtures meaningful relationships and creates a life truly worth cherishing. Fourth, avoid people who force their religious or political beliefs on you. No two people are exactly alike, and this diversity is what makes human relationships beautiful. True connection isn't about imposing our views on others. It's about recognizing and appreciating differences while finding common ground. Yet some individuals constantly push their beliefs, whether religious or political, onto others. This behavior is not only exhausting, but can create serious rifts in relationships. I recall a once close friend who would frequently try to persuade me that his worldview was the only correct one, and that I needed to adopt his beliefs. At first, I engaged in debates to defend my perspective, but every discussion left me drained. Over time, I realized these arguments didn't foster understanding. They only drove us further apart. Arguments like these rarely resolve anything. When both sides are fixated on defending their egos, the conversation becomes a battle where both lose. Even when you win the argument, the victory is short-lived and often comes at the cost of someone else's pride. The greater loss lies in the respect and trust that are eroded, leaving behind resentment and lasting emotional wounds. Truly wise individuals don't argue just to prove their point. They listen, empathize, and know when to step back. The real success in any relationship isn't in defeating the other person, but in rising above your own ego to create harmony and understanding. Letting go of the need to always be right doesn't just strengthen relationships, it also brings profound inner peace, something no argument can ever achieve. Fifth, avoid friends who leave you feeling distressed after every meeting. Have you ever noticed that people who once brought you joy and laughter now feel distant? It doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong or that they've changed for the worse. It may simply mean that life has taken you on different paths. Life is always evolving, and so are we. As our interests, values, and perspectives shift, relationships that once felt effortless can begin to feel out of sync. A colleague once shared a story about a childhood friend with whom he had countless unforgettable moments, from playing sports to dreaming about their futures. Over time, however, their lives diverged. One moved to a big city to build a career and family, while the other stayed in their hometown, leading a simpler life. When they reconnected, their conversations felt awkward, filled with polite questions and a sense of unfamiliarity. My colleague admitted that he initially tried hard to preserve the friendship, but eventually realized they had grown too far apart to recapture what they once had. He chose to let go, not out of a lack of care, but because he understood that sometimes stepping back is the only way to respect the changes in both their lives. Relationships are like a dance, requiring both partners to move in sync. When the rhythm is lost, it leaves both sides feeling drained. Instead of blaming yourself or the other person, sometimes stepping away is the healthiest choice. Letting go doesn't mean erasing someone from your life. It means allowing space for growth in your own directions. A gentle parting can be more meaningful than forcing a connection that no longer fits. Life is full of change, and so are relationships. The key is knowing when to hold on and when to move forward. Treasure the memories you've shared, but don't be afraid to let a relationship become a cherished part of your past. Letting go isn't just about respecting others, it's about respecting yourself. Sixth, steer clear of those who endlessly complain about themselves. Have you ever felt like an emotional dumping ground where someone only comes to unload their sadness, frustrations, and constant grievances? While everyone needs a listening ear during tough times, true sharing comes from empathy, not selfishness. Those who endlessly complain without considering your feelings aren't looking for companionship. They're using you to carry their burdens. This doesn't just tire you out. It can drag you into a spiral of negativity that isn't even yours. I recall a former colleague, Susan, who I was once very close to. During a particularly difficult time in my life when my mother was critically ill and I was struggling to balance work and caregiving, I needed emotional support. Yet Susan would show up daily, not to offer comfort, but to vent about her trivial problems. "I hate this job. My boss is so unfair," or "My husband doesn't help enough." Despite my exhaustion, she never stopped to ask how I was doing. When I tried to shift the conversation to share my struggles, she'd quickly steer it back to her own issues. Every interaction with Susan left me drained and even feeling guilty for not being able to help her. The breaking point came after my mother's major surgery, when Susan called to complain that I hadn't replied to her messages quickly enough. That's when I knew I had to set boundaries. I told her, "Susan, I can't keep this up. I'm overwhelmed, and I need people who can understand and share the load." Her reaction was silence, followed by growing distance, which was difficult but necessary to protect my mental health. Not all sadness needs to be shared, and no one should feel obligated to be someone else's emotional outlet if the relationship isn't reciprocal. Learn to listen with intention, but set limits for your well-being. Focus on relationships where both sides genuinely care and value each other's emotions. Remember, listening isn't just about hearing. It's about truly understanding and empathizing. Prioritize your time for meaningful connections, and don't expect too much from others. The world may not always be kind, but you can choose to be kind to yourself. 7th, avoid people who treat promises lightly or break them entirely. Have you ever waited for someone who didn't show up, offering a weak excuse? Or worse, no explanation at all? It's deeply hurtful to realize you're not a priority in someone's life. A promise is more than just a statement. It's a reflection of respect and trust. The most painful realization is when someone not only breaks their promises but forgets they ever made them. This doesn't just damage trust, it makes you feel unimportant. I recall a time when I was waiting at my favorite coffee shop for a friend. Initially, I assumed she was running late due to traffic or something urgent. After an hour, I received a message. "Totally forgot we had plans today. Sorry." This wasn't the first time, and I finally understood that tolerating such behavior was only harming me. Although she didn't intend to be hurtful, her lack of consideration and failure to honor commitments spoke volumes. When respect and accountability fade, relationships become emotionally draining. That's when it's time to reconsider their place in your life. Respecting yourself often means letting go of relationships that no longer add value. Healthy relationships aren't built on broken promises or indifference. Trust your instincts. You deserve connections where both parties value each other. If someone can't offer that, don't hesitate to walk away. Saying no to those who don't respect you opens the door for better people to enter your life. Never forget, you are not only worthy of love but also deserving of it through actions and words alike. 8th, avoid people who constantly dwell on the same worries. Have you noticed that some people share their problems, not to find solutions but to seek temporary reassurance? While it's natural to seek empathy, when someone repeatedly revisits the same issues without taking steps to address them, or outright ignores your advice in favor of hearing what they want, this dynamic can become stagnant and unproductive. I once worked with a colleague who often complained about her job. Initially, I thought she just needed someone to vent to, so I listened patiently and even offered practical advice to improve her situation. However, she repeatedly dismissed my suggestions and returned to the same grievances every time we talked. Eventually, I realized she wasn't interested in changing her situation. She only wanted validation for her complaints. One day, I decided to address it differently. I told her, "I really care about our friendship, but if we keep revisiting the same frustrations without making progress, it's not helping either of us. "I'm here to support you, but making a change starts with you." She didn't respond well, but I knew I had taken the right step for my own well-being. Listening to others is a kind and generous act, but doing so without fostering growth drains both sides. True friends are willing to offer honest feedback, even if it's hard to hear. Genuine friendships are built on mutual encouragement and support, not superficial sympathy. Remember, kindness is more than just offering comfort. It's about empowering someone to overcome their struggles, even when it requires firmness and honesty. Ninth, steer clear of people who constantly brag about their past. Have you ever met someone who always steers the conversation toward their old achievements, recounting their successes as if they were the only meaningful parts of their life? At first, it may seem impressive or inspiring, but over time, you realize these stories mask a deeper lack of joy or purpose in their present. This behavior doesn't just make the relationship feel shallow, it also reveals their struggle to embrace the future. I once knew someone who frequently talked about the prestigious awards he had won years ago. Every opportunity became a chance to relive those moments in excruciating detail. Yet, when asked about his current life, he would either avoid the topic or downplay it. It became clear he was stuck in the past, relying on old successes to define his worth. Sadly, instead of earning admiration, his constant boasting eventually pushed people away. It's important to recognize that focusing excessively on past glories doesn't elevate us in others' eyes. In fact, it can create disconnection and make others feel undervalued. True confidence and happiness come from living in the present, letting your current actions and achievements speak for themselves. Humility not only makes you more approachable, but also strengthens relationships with genuine connection and respect. As the saying goes, silence is golden. Those who embrace this wisdom often earn the deepest appreciation from those around them. Be strong, be steady, be stoic.